All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to our workshop, Toning Your Art to Match the Tone of Your Story. It's part of our co-op summer camp series and brought to us by Jay Pawlik. Um, as mentioned at the top, this is going to be a recorded event, so you'll be able to access it later on the YouTube or library. And in the future, you're probably doing that right now. Um, this will be a around 75-minute presentation with a 15-minute Q&A following. So please keep your video off and your mics off and hold all your questions until the very end, and we'll make sure that we get to as many of them as possible. I'd also like to mention at the very end, there will be a feedback survey that I drop in the chat, and please stick around to the very end so that you can fill that out and that we can learn how to make these presentations better and what you guys are interested in. That will also be the opportunity for you to pick up one of our week one merit badges, which I hope you do stick around to grab. All right. So my name is, I'm sorry, my name is Adrian. I'm one of the event facilitators and for the summer camp, one of your camp counselors. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to our host for today. That is Jay Pawlik. Jay Pawlik, pronouns they, them, is a non-binary comic artist whose goal is to make unapologetically queer comics. They have been working in comics since 2013 as the artist for Topaz Comics, with 2 completed webcomics, Dead City and Gender Slices under their belt. Their specialties are detailed line art, auto-bio stories, and character expressions. And so without further ado, I hand it over to our presenter, Jay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cartoonist Co-op first summer camp. This is so exciting. Thank you, Adrian, for the intro. Um, it's I'm so happy to be here and do this talk for you guys. This is actually a requested talk, so shout out to Jesse, who's also in the chat, for getting this kind of set up. For this talk, I'd like to keep all questions until the end. So like Adrian said, I've been working in comics for a while. Uh, my comics list keeps growing, and I keep trying new things with every new one that I work on. I'm currently in the process of working on some new comics, so this is the perfect time for me to chat about toning your art to match the tone of your story. So what is toning? And what do I mean by that? Well, when I say toning, it refers to how you fill in your line art. And I'm going to be using Clip Studio instead of PowerPoint this time because I'm going to be doing some demos. And I thought keeping it all within Clip Studio would be the easiest for everybody. But I'm also excited to show you guys my tools. This is kind of the setup that I use. And usually my process looks like this, where I sketch the page, ink the page, tone the page. And this is kind of what I mean about toning will be like the last panel here. So there's a lot of different kinds of ways to tone your comics, but for today, I'm just going to chat about the ones that I've done and that I'm familiar with. Here's some examples of tone styles that I use frequently or keep coming back to. Primarily, I work in black and white, so I'll mainly be talking about toning from that standpoint, and I'll keep singing its praises throughout the talk. Okay, so tones and their stories, some examples. So how do I go about matching the tones with the tone of my stories? As you can see, I've got quite a few different genres and styles up. While I have my favorite inking brush that I use for all of my newer comics, um, I really try hard to change up the toning styles that I use per comic. Uh, this might be this might just be a personal choice, but I like all of my comics to look just a little bit different from one another, and it gives me the opportunity to try out something new instead of being stuck with one style forever. And since I have my favorite inking brush that stays the same throughout the comics, it's been fun. It's been a fun and challenging task to find new ways to tone the line art. I find that, uh, or I like to find tones that match the art or match the line art and are easy to use with it because it's a bit of a finicky brush with lots of little gaps. Uh, I just think it's really nice and crunchy. And I really like the end result, a lot of it. Um, so it's worth it to kind of like experiment with a bunch of different tones to see like what works with it. Finding tones that feel a bit more traditional or give me a really interesting look are things that I kind of tend to lean towards. So briefly, in order of appearance here, I'm going to talk a bit about the first comic I worked on, Dead City, which was written by my wonderful spouse, Max Parker, who's also in the chat today. It ran from 2013 to 2020. Dead City was a all traditionally drawn comic, but I toned it in Photoshop. I only used 50% gray throughout the entire comic. Because it was my first comic, I wanted to keep things as simple as I was able, but showing JP as a person of color was very important to me. And as you can see here, I only had like 3 layers for this traditional comic, and I can get rid of the tones as needed. Um, And then later on, for the final omnibus book, I did go through and re-letter and retone the entire comic, where I did bring in a few more shades of solid gray and hatching where there hadn't been any previously. I also highly recommend if you're going to use, say, a 50% black on your comics, to make a swatch for it instead of making the layer 50%. I made that mistake for half of the comic, and I had to go back and fix half of the comic's tones because I had switched partway through from layer opacity to a swatch, and they did look different. It was kind of I was surprised. Um, so just something to keep in mind for if you're using just gray. Next, I'll talk about Alola Daramaka, which is also written by Max. This is the comic that I worked on right after Dead City, so there were a lot of similarities in how I worked. This comic is a four coma comedy comic. That was hard to say. So keeping it flat with a little screen tones added made it feel like really easy to read and draw as well. I chose 4 shades of pink, of this pink color to use. One, because they're cute, and two, because I find that limiting myself in terms of palette can produce better results than if I had gone with the whole color spectrum. And you can see, this is why I did this in Clip Studio. My palette on the bottom right here is organized by color and is limited to 4 shades per color. Um, and I tend to, if I am coloring a comic, I tend to use one color, 1 shade, or one color and then the 4 shades, sorry. Um, for the screen tones on Darumaka, I started in Photoshop back in 2019 using Kyle's screen tone pack, um, which was fine. It was fun to start trying out a screen tone style. It wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be, but it was the best that I had at the time. Then I moved over to Clip Studio in 2020, and everything kind of changed. Clip Studio has this neat function where you can turn a layer into a tone and use whatever brush you want. From there, I changed the layer color to match the palette of the comic. So I'll show you what I mean here. If if you haven't used Clip Studio, you go to the palette properties up here, and you can change by hitting the tone button. You can turn it on and off. So once it's on, you can use any brush and it'll turn it into a tone. It affects like your pen pressure, and you can use a bunch of different brushes with it. And I'll get into this a bit later once I talk about True Grit. But if you don't have True Grit, this is a really easy way for you to try it out. And then from there, like I said, you can use the change layer color to change the color of the screen tones. It's really cool. Technology is amazing. So from there, um, continuing on with color, on Ojoy Sex Toy, I worked on monthly comics for them from 2021 to 2023. And oh, some big news, I'm coming back to it. Ojoy wants the comics to be lighthearted and fun, but also readable on mobile. So flat colors, again, were the way to go here. I chose my four main teal shades, which again, you can see on my palette, and off I went. The big thing was to make sure that I wasn't matching Erica's pink, but sometimes I will branch out to another spot color or two for emphasis, um, as you can see from the pinks in the background. But the majority of my comics are this like kind of minty tealy color, which makes it really easy to really speed through these comics because then I don't have to think about the colors, which is something that I have such a hard time with, and maybe some folks in the chat also do. Um, and for these comics, I primarily use the fill tool and try my best to fix any gap issues as they come up, especially because my go-to brush, line art brush, has a lot of little gaps in it. It can be a bit finicky, like I said. Um, but because of that, I prefer to paint on my tones to get a more accurate edge on my line art instead of just focusing on the fill tool. So next, After All was a short, not safe for work comic, also written by Max. Um, and I retoned it actually a few times until I was satisfied with something. Short comics are so great for tone experimentation. Try something out. How does it feel? You don't like it, it's only a few pages, so then you can try something you do like on the next comic. I ended up going with just a line hatching tone on this one, and I gotta say, it printed really nicely on my printer while using minimal ink versus if the printer was printing the whole page with flats, which can take a lot of ink, even if your printer is a laser printer and it'll print in halftones for you anyway, which I, again, we'll talk about later. Um, it will save your printer a lot of transferring from flats to halftone if you start in halftone or uh, some kind of like hatching tone like this, which is always really helpful for me because I print all my own zines. Um, And going to The Curtain Falls is a bigger standalone story and my first big solo fictional comic that I did myself. It's got car chases, adventure, depression, and the fear of aging. It's perfect. I've been experimenting with a specific watercolor brush for a while and decided on using that for the whole comic. It has this really lovely texture that I felt really lent to the story well. It's a build-up brush, so even while using a black swatch, the brush produces a really light gray. In order to go darker, I layer the brush a few times. I do like this method a lot because it gives me a lot of control, especially when lighting a scene like this, where that kind of like very soft light is really important. But I wanted to make sure that there was really dark parts of the page as well. Um, and right now, this is kind of like my favorite brush that I keep coming back to. I can't help it. Um, Jigen Now and Then is in an upcoming fanzine that Max and I did a short comic for. I know that I said that I like black and white best, But sometimes, on my own accord, I will add color if the story really calls for it. This comic is primarily black and white until the famous Lupin III shows up as so, and only then does the color return to the world. So something that I want you to think about and really think about is, does your comic need color? Um, does it lift the story? Does it up the story, and does it play a part in it at all? Would the impact of the pages feel the same in black and white? So that's something that I think about a lot because if I can get away with a comic being in black and white, I will do that. But like I said, sometimes the story just really calls for it, and I got to do it in color or even part of it in color. So moving on to my comic Gender Slices and my HRT Diary follow-up comics. Those are strictly black and white. There's almost no toning. I don't think there's even any gray tones at all. And that's also by design. It's to keep it as quick as possible and to make and to keep printing costs down. Um, Black and white is so much cheaper to print than color. So I want you to all to keep that in mind when you're thinking about your comic and your tones and your colors. Um, as a little side story, I looked into printing all of my Ojoy comics, and they are actually 2 times the price in color than they would have been in black and white. So something to think about. I really want because like books are expensive. So think about if the high cost of color is worth it for your comic versus if you were to just do it in black and white. This is my black and white propaganda. And moving on to the last comic I have in the roster for today, The Curse Eater, also written by the wonderful Max. I've only gotten into halftones in the last like 2 years or so. The base options that come with Clip Studio, while are really fun and serviceable, there's just something about them that I feel is too clean for me. Which works really well for my Four Coma comic. But I wanted to try something with a bit more grit. So of course, when True Grit Texture Supply put out a halftone set, immediately grabbed it and started experimenting. Turns out I do like halftones if they have some kind of like roughness to them, some kind of texture. And True Grit also released their halftone machine, which then really solidified trying out halftones on a longer comic for me. So for the Curse Eater, I did use the halftone machine, which I'm excited to demo for you in just a minute. So, how do you find the tones? Experimentation. I've been playing around with tools and brushes since I switched to Clip Studio in 2020. A lot of the brushes I've downloaded are just a part of the Clip Studio asset store, which I highly recommend trying out. There's actually thousands of brushes to try for free. Occasionally, I'll go on a brush downloading spree and try them all out on one drawing, while also kind of like taking notes on the process. Um, which is something that like really helps me come back to it and see, oh, wait, I did like that brush. Or maybe if I toned down the texture because it was too loud earlier, maybe I can come back to it. Um, and I already mentioned True Grit, but I highly recommend going to check them out as well. The co-op has a discount with them, so please give them a shot. Their tools are such high quality. Okay, so once you find a few brushes or tools that you kind of like, try some 1 to 2 page comics with them. One shots are honestly the best way, in my opinion, to try new tools out and get better with them because one, you're not locked into a style for a long series. Not that you need to keep the same style throughout a webcomic, mind you. You just need to get through the 1 to 2 pages with this tone, and then you've got a comic. It's just done. Two, you can try some completed or completely new brushes that you may love or you may end up disliking. Like I did with this kind of middle painterly style. It was fun to try out, but ultimately I didn't end up liking it. So if you don't like it, you can just drop it. But finish the short comic first, because then you still have a comic and it's done. Three, while experimenting, take notes for yourself. How did you like it? What are the pros and cons of the tools that you were using? Did it make you faster or slower at a page? And more importantly, did you like the process? I'm such a firm believer in one shots and short comics for so many reasons. So please go experiment with short comics. Just go wild, go bananas, try some banana stuff out there. Um, See if some brushes like work really well together. Um, there's no harm in trying a short comic and just putting it out there for the world to see. So I'll go over my favorite tools. And I wanted to kind of like delve a bit deeper into them and show them off because I really like them. So for me personally, I like texture. I thrive off of tools that are easy to use, but add just a little bit something unique to the comic that they're being used on. Bonus points if I can get the comic page done quicker, but it still looks neat. So may I introduce my faves to you? The first one that I'll talk about is the my edited Ron Chan watercolor tilt brush, which you can find at the link in the slide here. Ron Chan does really great tools. I've liked his stuff for so long. Uh, and I've actually edited this brush, and it's been my go-to for about 2 years now. I just keep coming back to it. Um, I did add a different texture to it, and I think I altered the sensitivity on it. I don't really remember, um, but I have it where I want it now, which is the important part. So for a little demo, you can see that I am using a black swatch with this brush. And it's very pressure sensitive. It doesn't actually ever get to black, which is nice. Because like I said, I really like using it to build up a texture, build up the shade on top of one another. And also bonus points on the brush where on brushes where I don't have to change the swatch, like I said. Um, this is all just black, adjusted by how much pressure I'm giving it or building the brush up. Tilt and zoom also affect how big the brush is. So I also don't have to change brush sizes. And I love that for me. So the higher up my tilt is, the darker it gets. The more tilt I give it, the wider it gets, the lighter it gets. But the texture is still all there. So that's my propaganda for Ron Chan's brushes. Go find him on Coffee. He does great stuff. Next, I'll talk about the diagonal tone brush set that I got off of Clip Studio. Um, this has been a big go-to for me for a long time. It costs about 300 gold or Clippy, whatever the Clip Studio um, dollar is, the fake dollar. But as you can see on my right here, it comes with a lot of brushes. Um, so I tend to use the small hatch the most, and I'll also zoom in on here for you guys. um, and the medium wide and medium narrow. So it's just a brush that gives you a hatch. Um, but because of how the tip is, it when you fill it in, it kind of gives you these really nice little breaks in the hatching that make it feel a bit more realistic. It also comes with scrapers, which a lot of people know about, but if you don't, it's kind of like an eraser um, where you can erase halftones. And it gives you this really nice kind of choppy style that I think matches my line art brush really, really well. Um, oh, hold on, I lost my spot. And I've only toned a few comics solely with this one, one being the After All comic that I showed. Um, but it has a lot of different hatching styles, and it also prints really nicely on paper. Again, saving me a lot on ink. And I normally use it actually alongside with my other tools. I like using it to shade on top of halftones for extra texture and depth. Okay, next I'm going to talk about the two True Grit tools that I use a lot. Um, so beat tones, I grabbed this a few years ago, and this was before the co-op was around even, and it really changed how I felt about halftones. I liked the new textures. I liked that I could have pressure sensitivity on some of them. Um, and I liked that the lines could be combined with the dots, and I could and I should really do a short comic with just the combo dots soon. Um, but the combo dots, I think, are such a neat tool that they came up with. Um, but I primarily like to use the shaders, um, in which you can use your brush sensitivity to give yourself a darker tone or a lighter tone, depending on your pressure sensitivity. Um, and that's what I also used for the example here. Uh, but I highly recommend picking up beat tones. They have the shading tones as well as just regular non-pressure sensitive tones as well. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the halftone machine, which again you can find on True Grit, because this is where everything really changed for me. True Grit announced the halftone machine, I think, a year or two ago, and I bought it the week it came out, and I've done most of my halftone style comics in it. It's an absolute game changer, and let me tell you why. So it's not a brush. It's a folder that you pop on top of your art, not unsimilar to Clip Studio's base halftone, how Clip Studio's base halftones work. Um, so you can see the halftone machine folder here, and if I remove it, you can see that this is just a plain brush, or I mean, it has some texture to it, but this is not a halftone brush. So I can use any brush with it, say like my Ronchan tilt brush, a gritty texture with lots of transparent holes, or even a patterned brush. It's quickly become my favorite tool for toning. It has quite a lot of options for dot style, and because I can use whatever brush I want, I can alter it per comic to give each comic a little something new, something more unique than the last. Um, I can even just flat tone for a really easy, quick, but good looking result. Um, actually, I think True Grit should just sponsor me. So for another example, I have some clothing patterns uh, that I have used on the Curse Eater because the main character Salvatore wears a lot of uh, different patterns on his clothes. So if you have a brush that is similar to this, some kind of pattern tool that you like, you just use those normally, and then you pop on the halftone machine, and it just makes it into dots for you. So this has been my go-to for a really long time. Um, yeah, you can see that it has just done the work for you. It's amazing. And I really like using it. I've been trying a lot of different brushes with the halftone machine to see like which one I like for this comic, which one I like for that comic. Um, like I said, for Curse Eater, I ended up using a the halftone machine with a brush that kind of gives you a lot of holes, um, to give it kind of like a messy tone look. So if we zoom in really close, you can see those holes in the brush itself. And then when I turn on the halftone machine, it kind of gives it a really nice uneven look, which I really like. Okay. And whoop, okay, I lost my spot again. Um, Lastly, for my tools, I'll chat a bit about my printer. So I print all of my own short comics myself on my brother HL-L2370DW black and white laser printer, which I just found out has been discontinued, and I'm mortified by that. But I love my little workhorse so much. The neat thing about laser printers is that they also work on a dot system. So when you print gray tones, they do appear as halftones, which can give your zine a really neat final look. So here's an example, a scanned and zoomed in panel from one of my zines, also written by my partner, where I was trying out a textured watercolor brush. Oh, actually, I just spotted that, Adrian. I can put that in the chat for you. There we go. Because I have it open in my notes. But I really like the look of the printed copy more so than the digital. Again, that's a personal preference, but something to consider when buying a printer. Um, so you can see that the difference between the digital version on the top and the printed version on the bottom. It's just so neat. I just really like laser printers. Um, Okay, so, and if you do get a printer or already have a printer, I highly recommend printing out a test page of your comic, especially if you're using halftones, so you can get the dot size right. Too small can give it a really weird kind of moire look, but too big and your line art can get lost. I like to keep my dots at 30 or 40 points, depending on the DPI and the page size. But this gives me a really nice small dot without looking too off. You can see on my screen that 30 point dots does have like a weird pattern, as we're looking at it right now. But if I zoom in, um, it does look more normal. So it depends on like uh, how big your page is and how small you end up printing. This is why I recommend printing a test page, because I would have assumed that the 30 point would have also printed weird. But as you can see with the scanned copy beside it, turned out pretty nice. Again, all of this is up to preference, but I wanted to give this talk to encourage you to try different brushes and tools and to experiment more. There's an actually infinite amount of tools out there. So why not just pick something up and give it a go? So thank you for listening. If anyone wants, I'm open to questions and more than happy to clarify anything or show how a certain or tool looks again. And if you have any other questions, you can find me at jpawlik.com, topazcomics.com, or on most social media sites. I'm also always happy to chat on the co-op Discord, or for something more in-depth, um, you're more than welcome to email me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I didn't realize my screen went Nova. Yes, thank you so much, Jay. That was a really, really comprehensive presentation
Oh, good. I'm glad.
and concise. Like I loved just how much you're able to pack in there, all in the Clip Studio interface.
Yeah, it works really well as a like fake PowerPoint.
Yeah. And so we're entering the Q&A portion. I know that we had one question on top that I just want to throw out there because it came in early. Is there any way to show your pen and how the angles behave? Like, would you be able
Oh,
to show us right now how your stylus kind of angles work with the what shows up on the screen?
if you guys don't mind my camera kind of being weird for a minute, I wonder if I can give me one sec. I wonder if I can use my webcam to show my brush. My partner has stood up and is offering to hold the webcam. Oh, it might not actually go that far. Okay, maybe I will pull it this way. Um, so let's see if this works. My background is still like kind of blurred out, so I'm
Hang out just a second. Let me go ahead and change it
oh
so
yeah.
you're the spotlight and we can see a larger view.
Okay.
You might have to
Okay.
stop sharing your screen to do that.
Oh yes, okay.
Also,
Stop
Adrian, I think you have
sharing.
that power now. I made you the host.
Yep.
And if I go to video and unblur my background, yeah, there we go. So I will try and hold this as steady as I can. So, yep. If I hold my brush completely upright, I can get a really thin line. And if I hold it to the side, I can get a really thick line. That's what it means by tilt. I'm so sorry for my shaky hand and my thumb that is in the way. But yeah, so upright like this gives a really thin, crisp line. More flat against the screen, thicker line, but lighter.
Oh, that is quite a variety.
Yeah. So like I said, I recommend trying out Ron Chan's tilt brush. There's a lot of, or I'll blur my background again. Um, there's a lot of brushes out there, especially on Clip Studio as well, that offer that. But your tablet does need tilt functionality for that to work.
Yeah, good reminder. So at this time, you are able to get on mic if you'd like to ask your question live in your own voice, but I will also be grabbing questions in the chat. So feel free to jump in, but I'm going to also come through. We got one more question, which is I have a question about the dot patterns. Does it matter much? I see uh, Lo Los Angeles, I might be mispronouncing this, Los Angeles squares, circles, but I really don't notice much of a difference.
Oh, okay, yes, I see. Here, let me actually share my screen again. Uh, so I can go into that a little bit. Um, it's kind of all just up to preference. So if I go back to Clip Studio tones, I'll take the blue off for now. Um, you do have a lot of options for what the tone dot is. So let's go with heart. And then if we zoom right in, it will show that it does kind of look like little hearts versus Noise is the most different for sure. Um, Not including like the line, obviously. Um, but instead of like a patterned dot, it kind of comes off as more messy. But it has the same like capabilities. If you have a really light brush and then you press harder, it still works. Um, and there's not really a lot of difference between any of them. You can use whichever one you want. It's just all up to preference, and what kind of like fits your comic best. Versus like a lozenge, isn't quite. It's more like a square. Um, but if we put on circles, they look like circles. So there's not a lot of difference. Um, and I don't think I haven't experimented with it too much, but I think it's a neat option that is available.
All right, thank you. I have another one in the queue. When toning with something that has a definite direction, like the diagonal hatching, should you always have them facing the same direction? Is there a reason to change the directions, emphasis, or something?
So, in let's go back to my hatching that I really like. It really depends on, for me personally, um, where I think the lighting is in that scene. So normally I will keep it at either the rotation angle will be 40 or 140 for me. Um, and sometimes 0 or 90, but normally it's 40 or 140. Because then that's a really easy way for me to remember uh, which angles I really like. So that's 40. This is 140. It's the exact opposite. And then you can start putting them on top of each other, which is really nice. That can also lend for a really neat effect, more like a traditional hatching style. Um, but for me, it really depends. I'll usually use it at 40 most of the time, unless the scene really needs it to be in the opposite direction. So it is something that I do think about, but I try and leave it on 40 when I can.
Thanks, Jay. I have another question on uh, for the halftone machine. Is it usable on colors on scanned work?
So not necessarily. So I think the halftone machine was made more so to turn already made art into halftone. And I use it in a completely different way. But if I open up a new file to show you guys, I have the halftone machine set as a favorite in my materials. So you can see it's kind of blue here. So when I drag it over, it fills up my canvas. Um, just let it load for a sec because I have so many files open right now. And it gives me this like kind of blue color. So the halftone machine does come with colors, which is really neat. And you can change those if you go to edit colors. But normally when I'm working in comics, I just kind of turn off the edit colors and copy paper texture because I'm using it in black and white. Um, and I think if you turn off level adjustment, then you can access color. Yeah, okay. You can use colored swatches with it, which I haven't experimented with. But I highly recommend trying it out. Maybe you can get like really cool with it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for always encouraging experimentation.
It's great. You never know until you try.
All right, got some more questions coming in. One from
Yeah.
Jesse this time. How do you
Yeah, Jesse.
decide where on the page to use your tones?
Jesse, I may need you to clarify what you mean by where, if you want to pop on mic.
Yeah, sure. So like I noticed for this image that we have right now, you used it on the hair and it looks like the apron. So I
Mhm.
was just kind of curious, like, is it, do you think of it as just more like approaching it as if a color almost, or a shading kind of approach,
Oh,
that kind of thing? I hope that
okay,
makes
that's
more
a
sense.
yes, absolutely. Thank you for
Okay,
clarifying.
good.
Yeah, so I kind of think about it as if I were toning it just like grayscale. Um, so if it were in color and I turned turned it into black and white or gray, what would that look like? And what are the most important parts of the character to color in? So I picked her hair. Her hair would be like a dark brown color, and I picked like the um part of her sweater that is a little bit lighter. And that would maybe be like a blue color or uh something a bit darker than the rest of her sweater. And I try and do it in a way where I'm not overwhelming the reader with too many tones at once, but just enough to give them kind of a sense that, oh, that tree is toned in, so that means it's a dark green. Um, just to kind of like give it a bit more depth, and make it look like a little less flat. Again, this is something that I've been working on since like what, like 2013. Uh, so I've definitely like fumbled a bunch with this kind of concept of what to tone and what not to tone. Um, as I talked a bit about in Dead City, when it was just JP's skin color that was toned and nothing else, because that was the only thing that mattered, versus going back and retoning everything and me deciding, oh, Michael's red hair also needs to be toned. So what if I go through and do that as well? I hope that answers your question, Jesse.
It does. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got one last question in the chat, and I'll then round back for anybody who wants to throw out any last questions. But if you happen to have any experience printing tones on inkjet, wondering what your opinion is, and this is a two-part question, so I'll let you answer the first part.
So unfortunately, I don't have any experience with inkjet printers. Oh, and by that I mean I had one and it didn't work very well, so I got rid of it. And I didn't have a printer for years and years and years until about 2 or 3 years ago. Max and I bought our little laser printer, and I was like, oh wait, this is perfect for zines actually. Um, so I don't know if the printing process would be much different. So for printing inkjet, I assume that you may have to bitmap your entire image is if you're working in tone um, before you print it. So making sure that there's no actual gray in it. Um, so what I mean, and again, I'm using Clip Studio as an example here. Um, but if you go to the layer properties and go to monochrome, this is also available in Photoshop where you can bitmap an image. Uh, but if you make sure that your all of your tones they don't have anti-aliasing around them, they're just bitmap black and white and that's it. That might help printing on inkjet. But like I said, try it out, see if it works. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with them, so I'm not really sure. But I assume that that would work.
Thank you. And the follow-up question on that is, how long does it usually take for different processes, sketch, line, tone, lettering, for you to complete a page on average?
That's a really good question. So it depends again on what tone I'm using. So actually, another I think I've mentioned this before in the co-op chat, but another really cool thing that Clip Studio offers um, is you can see how many hours you've worked on a thing. Um, so I think on average, I'm usually about 5 to 7 hours for a full page from sketch to ink, or from sketch to final. Um, so you can always find that out, whoops, in your Clip Studio start menu if you are using Clip Studio. Um, yeah, you can see I have the curtain falls here, and it took me 7 hours to do that page. And that was a doozy because there were so many characters in it. But yeah, it depends on like, is your page one panel with one character? That would take me like an hour. Is your character, or is your page 10 panels with 10 characters? That's going to take me a lot longer. Um, but on average, I found that if I'm using, say, my Ronchan brush, it'll take me a bit longer because I'm kind of painting it more than toning it. Um, but I've also gotten really used to that brush, so I've gotten a lot faster in the last few years versus the diagonal tone brush set, where if I'm just using that and I'm just popping that on as a tone, and that's so fast. It might take me like 3 hours to do a page. Um, Similar to like the True Grit halftone machine, if I'm just using um like flat like the fill tool, then it's a lot faster than if I were to uh paint it myself with like a different brush.
Oh,
Have I timed a colored page before? Uh, I think it's I'm not as fast as coloring, so I probably have one somewhere, but I'd have to go digging because I haven't done a colored page in a while. Um, but like I said, Clip Studio just kind of gives you the amount of hours that you've worked on a page. So I don't actually have to like set that up. I can just go look for it, which is nice.
yeah, that as mentioned in the chat, that feature can sometimes be humbling.
Yeah.
Um, oh, we got another one. Oh, no, that's just a comment. Well, I'll read out the comments because they're nice to hear. Thanks for the breakdown. Really insightful to know how long it takes. Hopefully, I can get faster. But if there does anybody else have any questions to ask, remember you can jump on mic if you don't mind us hearing your lovely voice. But also feel free to throw in the chat. It'll be our last call. Annika, oh, sorry, mentions, reminds me of that one time I opened my Procreate timer and it said 15 hours.
Oh no, that's so
Yeah,
long.
well, yeah, that's exactly the humbling experience I've had.
And like I said, experiment with a bunch of different brushes, and the more you use them, the faster you'll get. I was really slow using the Ronchan brush at first, and now it's kind of my go-to because I'm so comfortable with it. So this is me telling myself also try, use more of the True Grit beat tones, because I haven't used them enough and I'm slow at them.
All right, we got a lot of thanks coming in, and I just want to mention Jay is very generous to mention that if you do have any questions after this presentation is over, you may contact them. I'm going to drop some of their contacts in the chat. They're both like Blue Sky, Kara. You can find them at J Pawlik at many different sites, but I'm also including their main site, and they're very nice to share their email. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't post on Kara anymore. Or maybe I will eventually. I do have one. But I'm not really on there anymore. I'm primarily on like Blue Sky and Tumblr, or my own website.
and what was that brush? It was a Ron Chen.
Oh
What was
yeah, it was here I will copy that link over because I can just kind of copy it from
Okay.
uh my Clip Studio. So that's the Ronchan brush, and I'll copy over the other ones as well.
Yeah, I'm also including some of your other recommendations, True Grit Texture Supply, and
Excellent.
the late you mentioned the Brother LaserJet is no longer in production.
Yeah, somebody in the tech chat in the co-op told me that, and I was like, oh, I didn't know it. I've been recommending this to everybody,
Well,
not knowing that it was discontinued.
well, maybe I'm
Um,
sure amongst our community, they'll somebody will be able to point us into a current model that does the same job. So I'm gonna throw it in
yeah,
there just the same.
I, as a quick printer aside, I find that if your printer has less bells and whistles, that's better. So mine doesn't have a scanner, mine doesn't have any extras. It's just a printer, and it attaches to my Wi-Fi, and that's it. That's all it does. And I think that that's very helpful.
Yes, dedicated roles is really good.
Yes.
All right. So we're just about to wrap up. I want to actually take a moment to thank Max, Jay's partner, for being in attendance, the other half of Topaz Comics. Uh,
Yeah, Max.
thank you for being a partner in this presentation. Come on. That wasn't. You don't need to come on mic if you don't want to. But I am so. With that, I'm going to drop a link to for everybody to claim your week one merit badge designed by. That's right. I forgot about the echo. uh, uh,
Yes.
One of our counselors, Monty, has designed is going to be designing some lovely badges going forward. So you can get our week one badge through the link. There's a PNG freestanding design, but there's also a very hilarious banner that you can add future badges to. So that is up in the chat for you to claim. And starting tomorrow, there will be a new badge. We turn over badges on Sunday nights. So any event you attend during the next through July into August, you will get a chance to earn more and more badges. So please keep coming back to our lovely camp. And
Yeah. Happy summer camp.
yeah. And before we lose you, I also want to drop the link to our feedback survey. So please do take the time to click that link, rate this presentation, tell us what worked, what didn't, and we will do whatever we can to make these better and more often. All right. Well, once again, thank you so much, Jay, for taking the time to come out
Yeah.
and really drop some great knowledge. And like the second I log off, I am going to be playing around with some of these cool tools now.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming and listening to me talk about tones for longer than I expected. But yeah, thank you for coming. This was really great. And thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, and thank you, Jesse, for suggesting it.
Oh, thanks to Alex for actually suggesting it. Thank
Oh,
goodness.
really? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm so glad Jay finally knows who it was, so I don't have to worry about messing up. I was like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Yes, shout out to Alex, Magic Metal Bird for that
Ah,
because it was
yes.
fantastic.
Yeah. Also, host of the Accountability Draw Jam next
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll be ending the recording and the meeting. But one last thing to mention: if you do go to True Grit Texture Supply, make sure to stop by our benefits page on the Members Hub, and you can get I believe, 20% discount.
Yeah. It's
I
great.
already forgot again. Thank you.
Yes. Please take advantage of that. All right. So that'll be the end of the recording.